Hello, everyone, and welcome to our vlog for today. Can you imagine that? And I want to start our vlog off for today with a personal parable and two tools that you can begin to use for for your imagination. So the story is that I had just started a new friendship with a friend of mine, and who we are now very close. We talk every week, and this friend was asking me, like, what do you do for fun? And I remember telling her, like, I do readings and, I do this and I do that. But a majority of the things that I was telling her were always for other people. It was never just, she's like, but what do you do just for you? And I remember breaking down and crying and being like, I don't know. I've never, like, it's just not something that I think about. And just getting really upset about it, crying. And she was like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. And then this friend follows Abraham. And so she gave me two tools. And I'm going to tweak one of the tools. And the tool that I want to tweak is, if you had a genie that could grant you three wishes. Now, here comes the tweak. The wishes that the genie can grant are only for you. So you can't wish for world peace. You can't wish for world hunger, to be over. You can't wish for any of that. These wishes have to be only for you. That's it. And I was like, well, I really wish I could travel more. And she was like, okay, great. So you wish you could travel more. And I was like, yeah. And then the second tool that she gave me was, oh, wouldn't it be nice? And that's where we really start working with our imagination. Now, for me, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be nice, to travel? And so for me, I remember sitting there and just like imagining myself travel while having a visual. But that's not all of our imagination. I think that's where we get stuck a lot is we're like, okay, well, I'm imagining it, but imagining it isn't just about seeing an image in your mind or the contextual understanding of it. To imagine something is to fully embody the experience, which means the feelings, because that is what the universe is responding to. It's responding to the vibrational frequency that you are inhabiting, which means, excitement, happiness, joy, bliss, ecstasy, so forth and so on. And the universe takes that and is like, oh, okay, this is what you would like to experience. Great, wonderful. Now, if we look at Dr. Joe Dispenza, he also talks about this where the mind, the brain doesn't really know the difference between reality and our daydreams. It kind of takes it as it's all happening. So if we imagine something and we really feel it to our bodies, to our minds, it's happening. Like we are in that experience. And so that's the beautiful part of this is at first I was just doing like a visual and being like, I'm imagining myself traveling. And then that's when I had to be like, ooh, you know what? There's another step to this. And I had to start feeling, well, what does it feel like, to travel? How would I feel about that? Booking the hotel and having the ticket in my hand or driving wherever I needed to go. And so I started to imagine that and the feeling. And then I was like, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could also travel and do a spiritual talk? Because that's something that I really do love and enjoy is doing spiritual discussions. I love talking about it. I love being able to bring clarity and understanding in whatever way. And so I was like, oh, wouldn't that be nice? And then wouldn't it be nice if I could do it with a friend and like, with people that I know and they know, and wouldn't this be nice? Well, a year later, it happened. I got to go to Ohio with a friend of mine and I got to do a spiritual talk, and it was fantastic. I loved it. Phenomenal. And so that's what taught me that imagining is so crucial, because the crucial part of it isn't just about the image, it's about that feeling. Because again, that's what the universe is responding to. It's the same thing with affirmations. If you're like, I am wealthy, and you're not feeling wealthy, then all you're doing is speaking emptiness into the air. That's all you're doing. You're not really having an affirmation, because an affirmation means you are affirming it. You are believing it. But when you are just like, I am wealthy, and you're not feeling it, then you're not affirming anything. You're just speaking some words. And so another thing that we have to remember is that the universe cannot give us what we are not willing to receive. And what I mean by that is if you can't imagine yourself doing it or having it, then the universe can't give it to you, not because it's not there, not because it's not in the vortex, not because it's not in your field, not because, it's not meant for you, not because you're not worthy of it, but because it can't give to you what you are actively resisting. And you may not even know you're actively resisting. That's why imagining something first is a wonderful way to prime yourself and to do some internal awareness and be like, okay, well, can I even imagine that? Can I even imagine how that would feel? Can I even imagine myself doing that or having that experience in whatever way, shape, or form? If you can, great, then it means that there isn't a lot of resistance. But if you can't, then that means there is resistance. And that resistance can be your thoughts, your beliefs, your ideas. And that's where we have to become aware and say, okay, well, what am I thinking, as this idea comes to me, am I excited about it or am I fearful about it? What are the thoughts that I'm having immediately after that idea? Are they positive thoughts of like, yeah, I can't wait to do this? Or is it like, oh my God, I can't afford to do that. That's stupid. I never should have thought of that. Which narrative are you playing into? And whichever one you're playing into, that's the one the universe is going to give you, because there's a beautiful section in A Course in Miracles called The Responsibility for Sight. And it says, you will experience the emotions that you choose. You choose. The universe isn't choosing. You're choosing the emotions that you want to embody, that you want to experience. And so, again, it's not to say that, the negative emotions are bad or positive emotions are good. It's just to say you get an opportunity to choose how it is that you are going to be feeling in any particular state. And again, that imagination comes in. How do you feel when you are imagining it? What are the thoughts that you're having as you're imagining it? Because that can also help us to embrace more opportunities, because now we're more open to them because we can at least imagine them happening. And that gives that cue to the universe to kind of to put those opportunities more into our path, but it also can help us to embrace change. And again, remember, the mind doesn't know if it's happening or not. So let's say that you want to imagine yourself, and this is something that I used for myself, was I was 250 pounds. That's how much I weighed. And I think what, I'm going to say 2 years ago? Not 100% about that. But anyway, that's how much I had weighed. And at that point, I couldn't imagine myself losing weight. I couldn't imagine myself going on a diet plan. I couldn't imagine any of that because I was like, oh no, it's going to be too hard. And, I don't have time because I'm at work and then I'm driving and then I'm this. And then I use that tool of, well, wouldn't it be nice? Like, what could I do for me? And again, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could just feel a little bit lighter? And wouldn't it be nice if I could, start doing some mobility exercises in whatever way? And wouldn't it be nice if I started eating better? And just how would that feel? And instead of being like, oh my God, it's going to be a slog and I have to eat salad and this. And then what do you know? What comes along? Noom. And Noom is all about psychological, like it helps you psychologically see how you are using food. And I was using food as like a de-stressor to be like, oh my God, I need to come home and I need to have like a cookie because that day was stressful. And let me tell you, it wasn't one cookie, it was like 6 or 7. But anyway, I got to see that and I got to then again, imagine just feeling lighter, feeling better, taking these steps. And then I did. And now I'm down to from 250 pounds down to 165. And that's where I've stayed. Like I eat, I exercise, I do stuff. And it's just amazing to me. Like this isn't, again, for a long time, I never saw that as a possibility until it was presented to me, until I started to imagine what that might be like. And that's all the universe is asking. The universe isn't asking you to have it perfect. And it's not telling you to have like this just strength, like it has to be this way, it has to be that. It's just what you want to experience. How do you want to feel? And I know for me, that is what helped me the most to, number one, recognize blocks and resistances that I didn't even necessarily know I had to wealth, prosperity, weight management. I didn't know I had all to traveling. I didn't know I had these restrictions until I started that process of like imagining and being like, whoa, there's some resistance here. And so that is why that's why today's vlog is, can you imagine that? Can you imagine yourself happy, joyful? And I actually want to read it to you um, from, and it's going to sound super weird, but from Mary Poppins Returns. And the song is called Imagine That. So I just want you to, if you can, see if you can imagine. So it says, some people like to splash and play. Can you imagine that? And take a seaside holiday. Can you imagine that? And then too much glee leaves rings around the brain. Take that joy and send it down the drain. Some people like to laugh at life and giggle through the day. They think the world a brand new shiny toy. And if while dreaming in the clouds, they fall and go kasplat, although they're down and bent in half, they brush right off and start to laugh. Can you imagine that? So I just love that because it's asking us, it's saying, can you imagine that, you're dreaming, you're having this great thing and then maybe it falls through. Maybe it doesn't work out the way you think it should. Could you imagine yourself just brushing it off and starting again, choosing again? Is that something you can imagine? Could you imagine yourself laughing through the day? Could you imagine what it would be like to see the world not as happening to you, but happening from you? Because that's something, again, the Course in Miracles taught me was that the world is not happening to me, it's happening from me. And again, it goes back to that responsibility for sight. I choose my emotions. I get to choose how I feel about something. I get to choose if I'm going to respond or react to something. All it takes is that awareness. Could you imagine what it would be like to be more aware of your thoughts, feelings, and emotions? Could you imagine your life and how it would be different? And just asking yourself that question, could you imagine that? Is that something that's even possible for you to imagine? If not, that's okay. What can you imagine? What are you willing to give yourself permission to have? Because this quote always comes to me when I talk about, stuff like this in the way of manifestation, if you will, which is, and it comes from Halloween Town, and it comes from Marnie's grandma, Agatha. I can't remember the name of I just remember her name was Agatha. And Marnie asks her, what is magic? And she says, magic is letting yourself, if you want something, letting yourself have it. Would you be willing to let yourself have something great and wonderful? Are you willing to know that you are worthy of that? And if you're like, oh, well, I'm not worthy, is that a story you want to continue? Is that something that you want to continue to live by? Could you imagine something better? Could you imagine yourself at a new space in life, feeling more worthy? Could you imagine yourself having a story that is joyful, a story that is happy? And again, that doesn't mean that we just forget the past, but it means that we don't carry the emotional baggage with us, which again, what is the universe responding to? Our emotions as well as our thoughts, the thoughts that are emotionally charged and the images that are emotionally charged. If we see ourselves as, lonely and a victim and just not being able to win at life just being hard and just, slogged down. Again, that's not to say that the experiences that you have gone through haven't happened, because they have. You experienced them. But now you have an opportunity to choose again, to imagine something greater, more wonderful. And the question is, can you imagine that? Are you willing to allow yourself to imagine that? Because it's all up to you. Remember, the universe cannot give you what you are not willing to have. So what are you willing to imagine for yourself? What are you willing to allow yourself to have? And are you willing to, sit down and imagine how it would feel, not just how it would look, Because again, when I said traveling, I just, imagined myself traveling. And actually, here's another great one. So I wanted to go to a trip to France. Now I haven't gone there yet. I was thinking about going this year, but then the Olympics were there and some other things occurred. But anyway, so I was imagining it. And my beautiful friend who had asked me the question about like, what do you do for fun? Actually got to go to Paris, and they took a video of them like stepping off of the plane and like all these other beautiful things. And it was so wonderful. And I remember just imagining how it would feel like to have the ticket in my hand, to look at the ticket and be like, oh my God, and imagine myself, getting dropped off at the airport, imagining myself how happy and excited I was, making sure I had my passport and this and that. And there's all of these different things. And then I was booked for, I was imagining that, having a good time with it. And I wasn't doing it for long. It would maybe be like maybe 5 minutes, maybe just a minute sometimes, just being like, wow, I feel so good. I feel so happy. Well, I had been invited to do a reading party for a baby shower. And I was doing the readings. And the hostess of the party was, I was telling her, about her reading and explaining. She was like, oh my gosh, all this is true. I'm so, stressed about this and that. And then I said, I was telling her, about what I was doing with that imagining. And she goes, shut up. And I was like, why? And she's like, we're going to Paris tomorrow. And I was like, shut up, put me in your suitcase. Like it was just so crazy. So you see, the universe was already showing these signs that it was like, oh, okay, so you want to go to Paris? Sure, okay, great. We're going to let you, get this glimpse of it. These people are going. So it's showing me, I was getting that nudge. I was on the right track. So it was absolutely beautiful and just amazing to me. And that's, the universe is going to show you those signs and being like, okay, I hear you, if you will. Excuse me. I hear you, and I'm going to show you, the signs that I'm bringing it closer and closer to you because you are getting closer and closer to it. You are bringing it closer. You're attracting it to you, or these circumstances to you. And that's all. So that is our vlog for today. I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being here. And I just invite you to imagine. And again, remember, imagining isn't just, the conceptual understanding. It's not just the image, it's the feeling as well. To imagine something great, to imagine something wonderful, and to, 3 wishes, if you even want to, 5 wishes that are just for you. No world peace, solving world, none of that. Just 5 wishes or 3 wishes just for you. And that's going to show you what you are willing to allow the universe to give you.